You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. And now your footwear insiders, Matt Priest and Andy Holt.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you, Andy?
I'm doing good.
Good.
One of the hardest things in the footwear industry is taking an idea and actually executing it, right?
Very true.
And part of that, things are only getting harder in terms of where you make your shoes, who you partner with in factories, compliance issues in factories, sustainability in factories, supply chains, quality issues, all these things. When we talk about sourcing, it's not just where it's made, it's how it's made, right?
Right. Yeah, it's so true. And I think that one of the things that we do best as an organization, as FDRA, is we create a platform for the continuous conversation around these things, whether it's this podcast, whether it's the working group calls that we have, or the tariff calls that we do every single week, or it's the sourcing summit, which we hold at the end of July every single year in New York.
And what's great about it is we go out and we find unique, interesting people in our industry, all doing different product segments, all sourcing in different locations for different reasons. They have different viewpoints. They have different models that they're utilizing. And so the goal is, when we put on these summits, is to bring these voices so that people can think a little bit differently about what they're doing. Maybe they can pick up something new. Maybe it reinforces that they're doing the right thing to begin with. But one of the panels that was run by you, Matt, at the summit included 4 different people in 4 different areas of our industry.
That's right. It was a footwear production potpourri, Andy. I don't know. I can say that word. I don't know how to spell it, but
that's why they're spell check.
That's why they're spell check.
Thank
if you get anywhere
Gates.
near the word potpourri, which I think is like pot and some ori, but anyway, I digress. What we did with this potpourri was bring together those voices that you indicated. And so we have Cherie Blum, who's the chief operating officer at Adesso-Madden of Steve Madden. It's kind of the private label side of the Madden empire. We had Luis Humberto Vela, who is a part of the Mexican Footwear Chamber out of Leon and Guanajuato.
Yep.
And then we had Matt Brown, who is vice president of Richlife Footwear, and it's just a character nonetheless.
I love Matt. Yep.
Matt has a lot. He thinks outside the box. He says things that may not kind of be prevalent throughout the entire industry, but he approaches things with a totally different eye, which we appreciate. And then Jean-Marc Pedeboy, who's the vice president of Romans CAD, the organization we work with a lot that does digital design and development, and a lot of our members use. And so each of those names, it's an international panel as well as kind of just different segments of the industry. And so let's listen in on the conversation we had in New York at the New York Stock Exchange, and we hope that you take some sourcing innovation insights from this conversation.
My name is Cherie Blum. I've been working with Steve Madden for about 3 years. I've been in the private label world in footwear since 1998. I kind of grew up at Kenneth Cole. My role at Steve Madden is really managing the operations and the global sourcing for our private label division. Mm-hmm. And in that division, we service every major retailer, and also we're kind of the leaders in the sourcing arm of the business as we diversify our sourcing as a company.
Right. And people don't realize, they know the Steve Madden name, but they don't realize how big of a business private label is for you guys, right?
Very big.
Yeah, very big. Got it. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Luis, you're up next, my friend. Give us your background. What have you done in the Mexican Footwear Chamber space and down in Leon?
Yeah, I am Luis. I'm member of the board of the Shoe Chamber since 10 years. I run a business, Gösh Footwear, in Mexico since 20 years. We are exporting shoes to the U.S. with private labels. We are selling our own brand in Japan, and we are wholesaling our shoes in Mexico. And my role at the Shoe Chamber has been promoting the exports all over the world, although our main market is the U.S.
Got it. Thank you. Welcome. Matt Brown comes to this event every year. He usually sits down there and has a lot of great insights and things to say. So we said, you know what, why don't we just bring you up on stage so you can do it officially. So Matt, welcome, and kind of let us know what your background is.
Thank you, Matt Brown. I'm with Richlife Footwear. We're a sourcing company in Hong Kong. We've been in business for 60 years. We started out with Adidas making shoes in Korea many, many, many years ago. And we have a list of many customers. And our facilities are located in China. So we have about 100 people on the ground. And we make every day for private label customers.
Great. Welcome, Matt. Thank you. And last but not least, Jean-Marc, you are all over the world. But actually, Cherie and Jean-Marc spoke at our event in Hong Kong in March. So welcome to this side of the globe. Walk us through what Roman's Cat is, strategies, and how you help the footwear industry.
Strategy, we are a French company based near Paris. And we have been in the software industry for the last 30 years, developing various software in various industries. Today, as the fashion industry is finally kicking off in terms of digitalization, we concentrate on footwear and bags, bag solution. In the bag industry, we're working with LVMH, Vuitton in France. We're working with various brands in the US, in England, all over the world. And as you know, nobody makes shoes anymore in France. That's why I have to travel. Which is okay, which is fine.
Sounds like a familiar problem.
So what is Roman Cat? First of all, the name of the company is Strategy. The name of the platform, and it's a platform in Roman's Cat. Roman's Cat is a city south of Lyon, which used to be the luxury. Claire Jory there, Louis Jourdan is there, and we were commissioned a long time ago to develop, because some guy, Gérard Kellian, head of production, had a vision about digitizing the footwear, the complete process. Needless to say, it took a while. Mm-hmm. But we're still there. And finally, we can say in the last 4 or 5 years, the digitalization process is people are really thinking of doing it. It still takes time, but we're there. I hope I would be 15 years younger, believe me. Because it's really now, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's catching on, is what you're saying. Well, let's back up. Cherie, we'll start with you. We're in the era of Industry 4.0. I think it's been coined by somebody, I'm not sure. And we're working towards more digitization, supply chain, automation. This is being driven by a number of kind of perfect storms. We talked about it with Mike on his perspective. But as you think about, Industry 4.0 and some of these shifts, is there a one-size-fits-all? How do you approach kind of digitization as a company, and walk us through kind of how you think about all these different technologies and how they will help you sell more shoes to more people here in the U.S.?
One of the nice things about Steve Madden, and one of the reasons I feel lucky to work there, is it's a very entrepreneurial environment. And as we have made different acquisitions over the years of other companies, we've kind of benefited from learning what those companies are doing well. And we also have also been forced by a lot of our customers, especially in the private label sector, to get faster, better costing. And so what I think we've found, or what I've found and what I'm seeing, is it's not a one-size-fits-all strategy. Mm-hmm. I think it really does depend on what type of business you're running. If you're running, we just recently acquired Schwartz & Benjamin. It's not that long ago, but they have an entirely different model in terms of they're working with leather shoes versus synthetic shoes and better brands. And so the needs of that type of business are going to be very different than the type of business we might be doing with a Walmart or a Target, where we're using, high volume strategies. And so I think the nice thing about having a multi-tiered business is we can take what's successful in our high volume business and then apply it to our more boutique businesses. Mm-hmm. So I think everybody kind of has to look at what the challenges they're facing in their own specific business and then make their digital strategies fit what they're doing. Right, that makes sense. Now, Luis, is this something the Mexican industry is thinking about, knowing that consumers changing, e-commerce, sourcing is clearly changing? We've talked about it. How does the Mexican industry approach thinking about digitization to serve the needs of its potential customers here in the U.S.?
At the Shoe Chamber, we have created our new Development and Innovation Center. In that center, our main goal is to spread the 4.0 technologies to the members. There you can have 2D, 3D designs, 3D printing, automation, automatic cutting, stitching, augmented reality, virtual reality, all those kind of things of 4.0 technology. Agility, as you mentioned, it's like the name of the game now. Mm-hmm. And Mexico would be a very good alternative for that because we are very close to the States. You can have very low inventories because we can ship in 1 week door to door. Mm-hmm. So that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, close to home is always very important. Matt Brown, how are you thinking about 4.0? You serve kind of a different customer as well. Is it something you've been thinking about, or?
Well, Matt, as you know, we were the first company to actually bring a CAD printing machine here. We were actually making, bottoms in prototypes here. This was in 2009, 2010. We set up as they call it now, an innovation center in Seattle. But we were actually, part of our business is in packaging. So we found that by having these 3D machines, we could actually make the hangers for our different customers, overnight, ship it to them, come back to us instead of tooling up, spending $1,200, $2,000 in China, waiting 3-4 weeks. We were able to turn this overnight, and then that moved into the soles and the midsoles, and it was a big benefit for us. Our one of our customers is Walmart Canada, and they absolutely loved it because it would just fit right into, everything's so fast, everything's moving so quickly today that when you can get a result the next morning and physically touch it and look at it and decide, we could even imprint textures on it at that point. But then, with the industry, it just seemed that whole digitization phase, that startup kind of waned a bit. We're all kind of caught up in the way we do things, and it's very hard to unpack the company and get everybody to agree to go in this direction because they're used to doing it a certain way. So we've actually moved away from that and brought our machines back, and we still do it in China. So we're getting our feet back on the ground because we had invested a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort into this program. And now, here we are almost 10 years later, and companies have them in their, have them right in their offices now. Mm-hmm. So at this point in time, we're moving as the industry is moving, and we're moving as our biggest customers demand of us. So. To be quite honest with you, we're thinking about it all the time, and we're ready to act. We're just not sure which direction to go.
Jean-Marc, is that an attitude you hear from your clients and potential clients? Not sure exactly which way to pivot when it comes to digitization?
Of course, yeah. It's a difficult. Trying to move to full digitalization when it comes to design and development, and also what I have to add, it's Roman's Kite. It's really designed to manufacture. You will find a lot of design, for visualization program. What we really are strong, it's really providing a platform. You know what David said before, I could just use the same wordings and just change, but it's about trying to do what they have done in other industries, such as aerospace, automobile, where the ownership and the subcontractor are linked to the same system. Easy to say, not easy to do, especially in very fragmented. I would imagine footwear is a bit like architect, where architecture, when you have the owner who orders and you have the architect or the subcontractor. So the revolution has happened in the building industry. Now it's time for the fashion and the footwear industry to happen. And obviously, as you say, it is difficult. But what I can say, as Mike pointed this morning, we need to produce results. We have 360 days moved to 140 days in internet development, reducing the cost of sampling from $2,000 to $250, okay, using 3D printing. Using the 3D master data, not only to go downstream to the production level, but use this 3D model for the e-commerce. Because it's much better when you have a 3D file to put that on your e-commerce. You have more options than taking picture. Picture is fine. Okay, it's a way to do it, and because then you have more option. You can send this 3D file to a social network, testing what are the trends without producing anything. What we can provide is different colorways, being able to integrate the CAD and the database for textbook. Changing the CAD will change the bill of material, will change the colorway, will change the textbook. That's the kind of thing we have to show, and we have to show result. And also, maybe we will talk about sustainability, but there is one thing we believe it's be able to integrate the sustainability index at the design phase. Mm-hmm. Because sustainability is fine, but nobody will pay for it. We all know that. But what about being able to, if some company, either it's SAC or any other institution, can give us the equivalent of carbon per square meter or square feet of material, since we know exactly the consumption of the footwear in 3D and 2D, today we are capable of predicting pre-costing, but if we link pre-costing and sustainability, then we can give to the consumer, okay, it's more, but look at a little bit like on your fridge, you have energy ratings. Mm-hmm. So it's not there yet, but I think if FDRA with your nice website can produce that will be awesome.
We'll get right on it, Jean-Marc. Appreciate that. Cherie and Matt, you guys are, as footwear executives, constantly thinking about what your strategies of sourcing are. Is analog, if you will, or old school still a viable option, or is it digitization, or bust?
Again, I think it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
I think for us as a company, we look at it both ways.
Got it. What about you, Matt?
Exactly. I mean, but we see a reluctance with our customers to move in that direction. There's still an old school crew of people in our business who want to do it the old school way.
Right.
And it's just, you can't fight City Hall. I mean, you just have to, go with the flow and be flexible.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Let me stick with you guys for just a second. How is the China trade war impacting, and the uncertainty of the war impacting your sourcing and the way you're strategizing for sourcing?
For us as a company, again, in our private label area, we're kind of being driven by what our customers want to do because they're generally the importer of record. And what we're seeing from most customers is that they want to move 20 to 30% to countries outside of China. Mm-hmm. I would say that for Steve Madden as a company, we're in the same bucket. That's what we want to do. We had a little bit of a head start because we do have a very viable operation in León, Mexico that's producing shoes for us and has been in our brand. We have production in Brazil already. We have some production already in Vietnam. So it's just a matter of us looking at our total business and determining what product types make the most sense to move.
That makes sense, yeah. What about you, Matt? How are you approaching the uncertainty?
Well, the way I see it is this is the greatest time in the history of sourcing from China. I heard Mike earlier mention it, but we have factories we've dealt with for years who are calling us up, begging us not to lose the customer, giving price. I mean, I have a whole night episode here on my WeChat from a factory owner that lower the prices $2, tell them we'll land the goods. They can pay in 15 days after we put it in the warehouse. I mean, in my opinion, if you're not taking advantage of the weakness in the Chinese factory operation right now, you're leaving money on the table. I mean, it's this for years. I mean, for years, I was president of a footwear company. The only way you could get a deal with the factories was volume. I mean, volume and stability and time commitments. It's just every year for the last 25 years, it inches up a little bit every year. And, here we are with, factories telling us to lower the price $2, give them better credit term, fly them here, tell them to come here. Look, I made in Vietnam for years, 1996 to 2001. Yeah, Vietnam's great. I love it. It's different than China. The food's a little better. The women are in charge. But the truth of the matter is the Vietnamese people and the government are ferocious. They're not going to leave any money on the table. I mean, whatever China's getting, they're getting the same amount and then a little bit more. And the labor rate in Vietnam as compared to China, and, I'm quoting off of your stats, Matt, it's almost the same. It's almost the same.
Yeah.
So if the labor rate is the same and a percentage of the goods still have to be made in China and brought down to Vietnam, and all these, I think it's a media generated hype, this everybody's running to Vietnam. Everybody's running to Vietnam. Everybody was running to Cambodia in the beginning because it was the only country that got on the US government schedule. You could actually sell goods made in Cambodia on the government exchange. A lot of people don't know that. But the way I see it is, the companies and the factories you've worked with in China, make sure you don't leave any money on the table with them. Make sure you get a commitment for time. And I think that this could be some of the best times we've had.
Interesting. Not the conventional thought, but I appreciate you putting a different spin on it. I like it. And we'll see how the crowd reacts to it when we go to Q&A. Luis, speaking of uncertainty, even Mexico, Cherie talked about Steve Madden sourcing out of Mexico. And I remember at the time people talking about, this was a couple weeks ago, a month ago, whatever it was, talking about going to Mexico because of the China threat and then the tariff threat because of the immigration issue at the border. Started to give people second kind of, get a little concerned about going to Mexico. Now this duty-free opportunity is going to be lost. We've dodged that bullet for now. How are you all trying to take advantage of an opportunity, right? Where the industry's looking and trying to figure out where to go to dodge the China bullet. How are you guys stepping up to make sure they know about you all?
We estimate that the U.S. government will not impose new tariffs to Mexico. Why? Because Mexico is doing its homework. With the migrants, we just put 15,000 more soldiers at the border. Last month, we reduced 28% illegal people coming into the U.S. Our Congress has already approved the USMCA agreement. Actually, we are waiting for your Congress to do.
I know.
Do that.
Point taken.
And,
we didn't really think we needed a new agreement, just so you know. But we know we're waiting for it.
Right now we have NAFTA running.
Yeah.
And I think this brings a big opportunity for Mexico as a good alternative of outsourcing. Mm-hmm. Because Mexico has a speed to market. We can deliver in 1 week, door to door. We have no duties. We have a very competitive labor cost. Actually, we made a study, and it's in this brochure that you can grab outside, that of the top 40 HTS codes that U.S. imports, Mexico is cheaper in 6, and we are already sourcing in 19 of them. So I think there's good opportunities there.
Yeah, that's a good way to approach it with that kind of data. Matt, before I go to Jean-Marc on a couple issues, walk us through, are you seeing any production issues right now in China in particular people need to be aware of from quality, consistency, those kinds of things?
No. No. I mean, since this, the Trump possible tariffs and duties and all that hysteria and the headlines, everybody's on their toes in China. I mean, everybody, with us. I mean, we're the people we deal with, our suppliers. Nobody wants to make any error whatsoever. They want to keep the business. They want to, with whatever they, and one of the frustrating things about this is, they're always a deep, dark hole. You really don't know these factories' costs, right? What are these factories? Are they paying their taxes? Is there a tax? Is there a water bill? They write it on a piece of paper, but who knows? So, I mean...
Now you see why you brought Matt from down there up to the stage.
Well, I mean, let's be realistic. I mean, if you haven't been over there, then, other than the megaplex factories, that Nike runs and all the others, and a couple independent guys, but, it's always been a great mystery. And, with all these events happening and all the hysteria with the duties and the tariff increases, all of a sudden, our prices are lower. Like you feel almost stupid. You feel kind of dumb. But look, I think it all get worked out, and I think that it's worth, as you had said, one of the other angles that we started looking into was just scouring the HTS codes. We have a lot of customers that send us, in their plans to make shoes, and where's this going to land? Is this a 10% duty? Is this a 37.5 duty? Is this 20%? Where's all this going to land? So we decided just to go through the schedule and find shoes that we make with lower duties. And we've got 6 or 7 shoes that can land from China at 0 duties. So you have to. Don't let the tail wag the dog. The designers can't decide what shoes to make. They can draw the pictures, and then you have to work through the materials. Mm-hmm. You have to work through the construction. And by just putting in the extra effort to go through the schedule, you may be able to come out of this with a 0 duty now, and then if Trump imposes any additional duties, you really don't have a cost increase.
Interesting. Got it. That's one way to approach. I think it speaks to some companies are design driven. So I think at a minimum, having the design team speak to the classification team, the custom team is at the start of the process is so key. Yeah, absolutely. So Jean-Marc, let's pivot away from trade for a bit, talk about digitization again. Which of the tools that you guys, the strategies, implements, have the industry gravitated to the most, if that makes sense? And what do you have in development to kind of help companies continue to think about digitizing and shortening supply chains?
Okay, first of all, as we say previously, in terms of maybe an international relationship, the fact that if any brand in this country is built is digital asset, meaning the 3D model, the last model, the 3D model, the 2D pattern, the 2D gradings, the material management, the costing, even the duty tax, even sustainability at one place, can understand. First of all, you are much more productive, but also you can move production. You can move production because you own this data. You have the ownership of the knowledge. The value is in the knowledge. I think a lot of footwear company doesn't realize that if they build a library of last, they build a library of model. This has value. It has a strong value.
I couldn't agree more. In the old days, maybe 40, 50 years ago, remember you decided on your last. The company would have a name for the last shape. They would say this is the Mary Jane or the Fred last, and people would order their shoes to be built because the fact that they had the knowledge, the fact that the company owned it. Nowadays, it's just, what's your open last?
Yeah, what we're seeing more, it's because in the capability of strategy, with the help of our big US customer, we've been able to build a different variant collection that you are capable of designing different variant, making simulation, all that time. So you give more option, and you're trying to get more to the objective in terms of price, obviously, trying to simulate, trying to match customer requirement. So that's the thing to do. And also on the production side, we're working on integrating all the operation for manufacturing into, once again, the database. We've done it for Louis Vuitton on the production of bags. It's a complete solution we store all the different operations for the manufacturing. And that's why also the knowledge is not lost, because one of the big problem is what is going to happen when these capable people are going to leave. Then by building this database, you're maintaining the knowledge, you're maintaining but that raises another problem, which is bringing a new generation probably of designer. We understand that they have to design to manufacture, which is not always. Just because we are in Mexico, we have done something interesting with the help of Sapica. We have built they have built a design center from 3D printing, using our software, but all other software. 3D printing, it's a complete. So the two purposes, they're doing that for two objectives. One, train the designer for the big company, like Flexi or the big guys, and also for the small businesses. We can't afford to buy our solution, and they're developing service bureau, which is fine also, So that's the type of thing we need doing. I'm trying to do that in Hong Kong with Hong Kong Polytechnics. to ask them to train, because implementing a solution is more about change management than anything else. And that's where one of the big issue is we have to solve this problem.
Also, we are digitalizing all the material database of the vendors. Mm-hmm. We are working in that project for the past 8 months.
Yeah, okay. And talking about material, also we have teamed up with X-Rite, Phantom.
Yep.
Obviously, if you can afford their scanning, because it's a bit expensive, but it's very nice. It's very nice. So we are implementing X-Rite Phantom from a long time, but now the new AXF format. So that will give you a very nice, extremely nice, even a 3D model. You know, if you have a render farm or any other solution like that. So there is a. But once again, it's about trying to force people to ask people to work in collaboration, which is the hardest things to do. But also, brand should be the leader.
Right.
If the brand doesn't push, I went to a Vietnam conference. It was your ex, Peter Madden.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he was saying, in the last 25 years he's been around, he said, if brand doesn't push, nothing will happen.
Right. That's true for a lot of different initiatives. Absolutely. So, Cherie, one of the things as we kind of close out my questions and we pivot to the audience, and so be thinking about what questions you have. Cherie, one of the things I've loved and always admired about Steve Madden, I think the industry has as well, was your ability to produce on Long Island or in Long Island City, do quick test and react into stores here in Manhattan or wherever, and then see what's selling, and then place broader orders to meet that demand, knowing that this will be successful as you roll it out. That seems to be the gold standard now, with sourcing being quicker, more countries, direct to consumer often, just the way in which things are just kind of lining up from an agility perspective. How have you taken that strategy that's so embedded in your culture and multiplied that out in a very broad sense?
I think the biggest thing that we have to offer retailers at Steve Madden is information, and getting the information as fast as we can and being able to determine and analyze if something is going to work or not work. We very quickly, for example, became the leader in the fashion sneaker business, which we weren't really in the sneaker business at all, but as it started to trend, we brought things in quickly, either from shopping in Europe or making shoes in our own factory. And speed really is, and being the first ones out there with something is really something that drives the business. But the other thing that we're able to do for our retail partners is let them know what's actually working versus just taking a guess or seeing a trend on WGSN and thinking, oh, this is the next big thing. Every year all of us go into fall thinking Western is going to be fantastic and hoping that Western is going to be fantastic. And even last year, I was working with a big retailer, and they said all of our other partners are bringing us, the shoes with the Western buckles and this type of treatment. And are you guys hiding the fashion from us? And I said, no, we would never hide the fashion from you. What we know is it's not working. So I'm only bringing you the things that are actually working. And it takes a while for the retailer to come around and be a believer, because, they want to think that they want to hope that all these trends work,
right? But
they don't. And so that's where I think having the culture of having the factory in Long Island, whether the shoes are coming from there or they're coming from, direct buys from other, European factories, having that real information is what's built how we've built our success.
And that's a very analog thing. It really is. It's an old school kind of thing. So this is for everybody whoever feels led to chime in. As we think about the future, what does 4.0 look like 5 to 10 years from now for the industry? Have we fully adapted? Are we still kind of chewing at the margins, and it's still a huge labor component, a huge kind of long lead times, and all the things that go into the industry now? How are you approaching this in the next 5 or 10 years, and how do you think this will all play out? Yeah, Luis?
At the Shoe Chamber, we are preparing. We have just hired a consulting firm, a German. It's Roland Berger, and they did the strategy for the Portuguese industry. They converted the Portuguese industry for being a just outsourcing industry to have their own brands. They are exporting right now 95% of their production. So we hired this consulting firm, and we are making a project for the next 5 years. And we are preparing 30 companies. Our immediate goal is to grow our exports in 10 million pairs. We are exporting right now 26 million, and we want to do 40% more. And I think preparing these companies with the new technologies is like the future. So we are looking for companies here that want to make a commitment with Mexican companies. I think that the time when you send only the blueprint and a sample just to copy, that's over. You need to do more than that. You need to put a team, as Mike said, on the ground, to be there, a designing team, quality team, and to be there. Last week I was talking with a friend that 2 years ago he was exporting really few. He's making 4 million pairs of children's shoes, synthetic. And he met a guy here in the States, and they make like a partnership. So this guy is like a rep, like a distributor, and they put an office inside his factory. So the Americans have their office inside his factory, and they have also an office in California. And just last year, they exported more than 400,000 pairs. So those are success cases, as well as the Wolverine, Fry, King, Steve Madden, and all these companies that have been in the Mexican market successfully for many, many years. And all the boot, I mean, they have like 30, 40 years in the market. But we also have synthetics. And I want you to think that Mexico is not only leather, it's not only Goodyear Weld. We have also the cement, the synthetic, the sandals, PU injection.
And I will say Mexico's a part of the TPP-11. So there's also opportunities in working through the other different marketplaces, and the rules of origin that we spent a decade negotiating and then we pulled out. You guys have moved on with those, and they're more flexible. So your commitment to free trade has been there for many years, and ours is wavering a bit right now, but we appreciate that as well. So, what about you, Matt? What are any final closing thoughts before we open it up to the audience?
I just think, I mentioned, I think that you were saying in 5 to 10 years, and I think that there needs to be an effort between the universities and the employers, and I don't know if it's an apprenticeship program or collaboration program or a synergistic effort, but we need to get the people who are coming into the industry to be able to, design. If you're a design-driven company or a non-design-driven company, we need to get more people who know how to make shoes in the shoe business. I spent a lot of time in the shoe factory. I actually can make a shoe. And I see a lot of people who are not in it so much. They're just marketeers in the footwear business. And I think that if we can find that collaboration where we're starting young from the school age up through and developing the the digitization it can work in 5 to 10 years, but ultimately, it's brand driven.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to the Factory 4.0, that's the strategy we've been working with on two projects. On two projects, to go from a 2D pattern to the stitching machine, do the full and kind of double the output. But it's complicated, to say the least. Last month in Barcelona, I met a US company called Software. They're very, very interesting because they're working on this type of subject, when trying to do because we, as a software, we can provide the information. The problem lies after that in the machine, in the machinery. So if vendor like us and very innovative new machine vendors, and in fact, software is financed by DARPA. So that will be that we can show some example, but definitively yes, there is a move to trying to get this full automation. I mean, improve at least the automation, and we're working on 2 projects. Now, in a more general speech, in April there was a tech show, Vivatech in Paris, and you know what? The biggest the biggest booth, it was Louis Vuitton. They were demonstrating all what they are trying to do with blockchain to control the sourcing of leather. In spite of the fact that they bought all the tannery in France and in Europe. But now they're very keen, and I think one of the areas is probably, trying to get all this material correct and with blockchain, and that's something where I see there will be some big changes.
So great conversation there among all these different folks from different segments of the industry. Ending with blockchain, but talking about products specifically, and then source country and source issues, and of course, with our friends in Mexico, trying to produce more and more shoes duty-free to bring into the U.S. In this age of tariff increases. So it's a lot of discussion on strategy, a lot of discussion on different segments. But we hope that you grabbed a few things out of these discussions that you could take a look at your current sourcing strategies and production strategies, maybe tweak them a little bit, maybe update them a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Andy. And it's always a good conversation because it's dynamic, and we have just really good people who work with. We love this industry, as you know very well.
Yeah, and I would say on this issue, when we first started the sourcing summit, we didn't know if it would be annual, but you could almost talk about this weekly, and someone approaches it so differently. And so there's always some kind of new churn happening, some kind of new trend happening, even as footwear sourcing in China still remains the elephant in the room. It's all these different things happening. All right, folks, this is Shoe and Show, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear. Thank you for listening. Drop us a line on shoeandshow.com. Subscribe on iTunes, on Spotify, anywhere there are podcasts. Tell a friend, tell a family member. We hope you enjoyed it. If not, we're sorry, but not that sorry. Until next time, Shoe-In is out.
Shoe-In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.